Hey there! Welcome to Embracing New Life, the podcast at the intersection of discussions about mental health and the church. If you're new, we hope you choose to stay. If you're a returning listener, welcome back and thank you for continuing with us. Today's episode is part 2 of a 2-part series on counseling myths about Christian counseling from a non-religious standpoint. If you have not already listened to part 1, please go back and check it out. It's only 10 minutes. If you've already listened to it, onward! Here are a few clips from today's episode.
I've heard many times over the years non-Christians identifying, I want services at your clinic because I appreciate your values.
Yeah. The state requires that individuals, do continuing education courses that keep them up to date with current, ongoing, best practices in the field of counseling.
So some of the questions, for example, proselytizing, etc., may come from the confusion that they're thinking, a Christian psychologist is going to be like a Christian priest or pastor.
Yeah.
And no, our roles are very different.
Yep.
And the boundaries around our roles help each of us serve well and meet the needs of people.
Yeah. So once again, it's that time for you to grab that beverage of choice, find a comfortable spot, or if you prefer, go for a walk or do something while listening. Let's begin today's episode. Myth number 5 would be Christian counselors only use the Bible.
And my first response to that is I heard that kind of statement is, use it for what?
Yeah.
Because are they using it as a hammer, or are they using it as a love offering, or what?
Yeah.
As a psychologist who integrates faith and practice, psychology and theology, I'm always aware and always seeking to bring the truths of Scripture into anything that I'm doing. When I'm cutting the grass, I may be meditating on things from Scripture, just thinking about it. So use the Bible. It's part of our lives. It's not a separate category.
Most definitely, yeah.
And yet we are unlikely to quote a specific passage until we know what it means to the person that we're counseling with.
Yeah. Yep.
Sometimes I will use scriptural references, maybe as truth statements for them, or as they're challenging their beliefs, and I know that this is something that is part of their life. At other times, I would not do that, for that would only increase their defenses.
Sure.
But the truth is truth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I would dare to say that if you, there are many principles found in the Bible that, non-religious people would agree that
definitely.
They're just, good values to live by in life, And so obviously those things are going to come out from a Christian counselor because that's part of, like you said, it's just part of the integration of their life and their faith. But it doesn't mean that they're trying to proselytize or, trying to convert anybody. It's just that they're good principles to live by and good ways of moving in a healthy direction with our lives.
I've heard many times over the years non-Christians identifying, I want services at your clinic because I appreciate your values.
Yeah, yep.
And our values, every human being holds values.
For sure.
Our values are congruent with the historic Christian faith.
Yep.
And people knowing that many times, even if they don't agree with the Christian faith, they do agree with the values, that those truths are something that bring them comfort and safety.
Yeah, yep. Myth number 6, and the final one that we've come up with, and I'm sure if we come up with more in the future, we can do another episode, but number 6 would be Christian counselors are trained different than other counselors.
This is a yes and no. On the one hand, we are licensed here in the state of Wisconsin. We are licensed by the governing authorities, demonstrating competency and adherence to the rules and guidelines of our mental health professions. We have the same training. Many of us have training in research institutions, state institutions, secular institutions. Some of us have training from Christian institutions who are accredited in the same way as, say, a state institution would be.
Yep.
But all of us also go beyond just that training with additional study, training, discussion, exploration in our theology and how that impacts how we understand the application of our mental health training.
Yeah. The state requires that individuals, do continuing education courses that keep them up to date with current, ongoing, best practices in the field of counseling. Yeah. So, everybody kind of is on the same page, or not necessarily the same page, but, pretty much in the same chapter with everybody else when it comes to those different things.
So we participate in the same professional organizations, many colleagues in the community we interact with, that we are a part of the mental health professional community. Yeah.
And I mean, part of it too is, I think as I've been around in the profession and as, more research has been done into just the spiritual component of humans in general, you can cut religion out of it, but spirituality just in general is a very significant thing for humans to kind of lean into by and large, just because we know we have so much research on it now.
Yes, it is. I look forward to more discussions on that topic. But what we're seeing in just the general field is this recognition of faith community, of the value of a defined moral code, a defined sense of how do we answer the ultimate questions of life.
Yeah.
That people seek this and comfort comes from it.
Yeah.
Well, there's another question that I sometimes encounter.
Yeah.
You're doing the same thing that pastors do.
Yep.
Or that you're just a pastor with a different license. And I would suggest that's very inaccurate.
Yeah.
Highly inaccurate.
Yeah.
Our roles are quite different. Our training is different. But our roles are different too. A pastor has responsibilities, or a priest has responsibilities for shepherding their flock, for the teaching that they do inside their faith community, administration, all types of responsibilities for their congregation.
Yep.
Our role as mental health professionals to respond to the social psychological needs, as well as the spiritual and at times physical needs of the people that we serve. We're healthcare providers. So some of the questions, for example, proselytizing, etc., may come from the confusion that they're thinking, a Christian psychologist is going to be like a Christian priest or pastor.
Yeah.
And no, our roles are very different.
Yep.
And the boundaries around our roles help each of us serve well and meet the needs of people.
Yeah.
There are many times when I have worked alongside a client's pastor or priest to facilitate their healing, their recovery, their wellness.
Yep.
And each of us in our own role can contribute far more than if we get the roles confused.
Yeah. I think, too, what is helpful for people in talking with individuals that have those kind of concerns, I mean, these myths, I think, probably help dispel a lot of it. But it's also good to understand that there is an ethical code that binds us to the fact that if somebody doesn't want to talk about spirituality, then we're just ethically responsible for not going there. If somebody wants to, then we go there. But if not, then we stay away.
Yeah. And we may explore with them what that means to them.
Yeah, exactly.
For the value of that person knowing themselves more deeply.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. Well, good. I think these are excellent, myths to talk about and dispel, especially for people who are potentially looking at, seeking services that are non-religious at a, Christian facility. And I appreciate your time in talking through these with me.
Oh, thank you. This is good.
This episode of Embracing New Life, the podcast, is a production of New Life Resources, a Christian counseling clinic in Southeast Wisconsin whose aim and goal since 1976 has been to provide high-quality professional counseling, psychological, and consulting services from within a Christian framework.